When thinking of future technologies, many people think of warp speed spaceships or unlimited energy, but this is not really realistic, because both technologies are still very theoretical. An upcoming thing that people should think about more is genetic engineering, because it is already here. The new and upcoming technologies for genetics are going to be extremely impactful in the future, with a multitude of huge and irreversible changes. Although genetic technologies can be used for very good things such as reducing or reversing aging, curing illnesses, and enhancing humans, it will be very important to keep an eye on the bad things, because with such powerful tech we need to make sure to use it wisely, so it's not used in negative or dangerous ways. It's like what Uncle Ben said.
With great power comes great responsibility.
So this is where we start to question what adverse outcomes for humanity can spawn from further research and development of genetic technologies? Well, this question has a lot of intricate answers and some of them are even debated. So before we look into this can of worms, let's get familiar with some information and history of genetics and its manipulation. So, first things first, genetic manipulation is not something that is exclusive to the modern day, having been performed by us millions of years ago, by using selective breeding to strengthen traits we wanted in our pets, livestock, and crops. But it is true that we really didn't know or understand what was going on until we discovered deoxyribonucleic acid, also known as DNA. DNA is a complex molecule that guides the growth, development, function, and reproduction of everything alive through its nucleotides that are in groups of 4, each giving different instructions for an organism. Almost immediately after discovering the code of life that we know as DNA, we would start to consciously manipulate it in any way we could. The first popular experiments that would come from this newfound knowledge would be studies in which scientists would bombard crops with radiation to create random mutations in their genetic code. It surprisingly at the time actually worked, giving life to the Rio Star grapefruit that supplies Texas nowadays with 75% of the total grapefruit production. Later experiments would show how snip bits of DNA of different organisms would affect different bacteria, animals, and plants. This would aid in the discovery of many medical treatments and useful agricultural applications. Out of all the advancements mentioned so far, none have even nearly compared to what would come next. CRISPR was such an impactful technology in this field that it lowered the standard price of genetic engineering by a whopping 99% and lowered the time from years all the way down to weeks. Not to mention that it also became way more accessible, making it so anyone with a lab could and can use it. In a great video titled "Genetic Engineering Will Change Everything Forever" by the reputable educational group on YouTube known as Kurzgesagt, in a nutshell, the video described CRISPR to be GPS compared to the prior technologies that were described as being maps because of how much more precise it is compared to things prior. With advances in CRISPR and other upcoming technologies, scientists say it is very likely that we enter a biological revolution within our lifetimes. Although many good things will come out of this, the looming shadow of something terrible taints this possible future: bioweapons. With the more cost-efficient, effective, and accessible ways of manipulating genes, the possibility of bad actors, such as terror groups, creating bioweapons goes up by a landslide. The barrier of entry to genetic engineering will become substantially lower, so much so that it makes it so any averagely smart person with a low amount of money will have access to such a powerful technology. Bioweapons aren't the only issue presented by the threat of bad actors, because gene manipulation can also enhance humans for warfare, which can be considered unethical and dangerous. It is scary to imagine what would happen if a state like North Korea were to exploit this technology to make an unstoppable army of obedient super soldiers. Genetic manipulation draws many similarities to nuclear technology, in which we all know can be used for great things such as sustainable energy, but was ultimately exploited to make one of the most destructive forces crafted by man. The nuclear bomb. Another problem we see with the manipulation of genetics is the creation of genetically modified organisms, aka GMOs. The use of GMOs is a topic that is heavily discussed in the modern day and has various ethical problems in many people's eyes. One feared possibility is that genetically modified organisms can mix in with the natural populations and bring unwanted features to the original organism, spreading their artificial traits to something we would consider natural. GMOs also present the risk of promoting heavier use of herbicides that negatively impact the environment and human health. GMOs promote herbicides because they can make certain plants immune to the herbicides, so they have no issues with putting more herbicides on those plants. One final issue seen within the advancement of gene manipulation is the possibility of making mistakes. The reality is that humans are imperfect and will make the wrong edits trying it on people, which can lead to many unforeseen consequences. Even if we were to make the right edit to a gene, there's still a lot we don't know about genetics and the possible collateral problems that may arise. There's also a scary possibility that some of these problems may go unnoticed. Although we see all these possible issues with genetic engineering and manipulation, it would be unwise to disregard it altogether. Yes, there is a possibility of these problems arising. However, the solution would still not be to forget or outlaw genetic manipulation, because the doors to this future are already open, and no matter what we do, people will not stop sneaking through these doors. If we were to ban the use of genetic technologies, that would only cause people to pursue the technology in a more sinister environment. So instead, we should participate in the development of gene tech, because only then will we be able to make sure that further research and development is guided with caution and reason. There is also a lot to gain from this tech. Even with its glaring issues, it may very well be humanity's next frontier.